May I invite you to have your seats? At this time, ladies and gentlemen, we will have an inspirational item that will grace you, and they will grace the stage at this point in time.
Pleasant good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
My name is April Jairam.
And my name is Tamu Aguilera.
So we hope you like this song. It's our rendition of Oceans.
You call me out upon the waters, the great unknown, where feet may fail. And there you find me in a mystery, in oceans deep, my faith will stand. And I will call upon your name and keep my eyes above the waves. My soul will rest in your embrace. I am yours and you are mine. Your grace adorns in deepest waters. Your sovereign hand will be my guide. Where feet may fail and fear surrounds me, you've never failed, and you won't stop now. So I will call upon your name and feel my eyes above the waves. When oceans rise, my soul will rest on your embrace. For I am yours and you are mine. deeper than my feet could ever wander, and my faith will be made stronger in the presence of our Savior. Spirit leads me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the waters wherever you would call me. Take me deeper than my feet could ever wander, and my faith will be made stronger in the presence of our Savior. So I will call upon your name and keep my eyes above the waves. When oceans rise, so will rest in your embrace. I am yours, and you are mine. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, April and Tamu. Give them another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Such a very wonderful, beautiful, inspiring item. Ladies and gentlemen, it is just about 5:40 in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, and not very often we are privileged to start programs on time here in this country, but today I must say that the organizing committee, for the work that they have done and to put things in place for this wonderful Mayaro Legacy Award. Let's give them a round of applause. So my name is Neil Ramdad, and I have a very simple task here this evening. And that is to introduce to you the master of ceremony of this evening's program. He's no stranger to Trinidad and Tobago. He's no stranger to the television screens, and one of the most soothing voices that we have heard over the last decades. I've had the distinct honor and privilege to work with him for many years, and I've learned a lot from him. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor, it's my privilege, it's my joy to welcome to this podium, to proceed as the Master of Ceremony of Mayaro Legacy Award, the very popular Hansley Ajoda.
Thank you very much, Neil. You're looking quite swell. Since I last saw you, of course. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And it is a pleasure for me to be here in Mayaro. I've been coming here for the last couple weeks, and it certainly is a pleasure. Thank you again. Let me begin the proceedings. Yes, we've started on time, and congratulations. I think it's indicative of the management of our Member of Parliament, whom I'd like to congratulate and address first of all our Member of Parliament, Mr. Rushton Paray. The Chairman of the Mayaro Rio Claro Regional Corporation, Mr. Raymond Cozier, the man who does not sleep. Our feature speaker, Dilip Dan, and the specially invited guests, these awardees with whom I've interacted over the last 40 years of my life. Congratulations to each and every one of you, and it is a pleasure and an honor for me to be here among you this evening. To members of the media, thank you for being here and coming all the way down to Mayaro. We know anywhere sometimes very often beyond the lighthouse is just simply too great a distance for most. So it's good to see you here. To the specially invited guests, thank you very much for your presence here in this wonderful hall, this beautiful and intimate hall. As Neil indicated, I'm Hansley Ajoda, and I have the honor of presenting the first inaugural Legacy Awards for 2022, hosted by the Office of the Member of Parliament for Mayaro, Mr. Rushton Paray. Let's give him a round of applause again. Legacy. What a word. You know, the legal term, and I'm sure there are many attorneys around here, and I remember it as a broadcaster, particularly reading news. Legacy simply means something that you leave in a will, a piece of property, or something of the sort. Well, that's, of course, the legal term. But I could safely say from my interactions with everyone who's on this list here, that they've certainly left something behind. They made an indelible mark on the lives of many, many people. And they have served their mother country greatly. I think the fact that our Member of Parliament, Rushton Paray, recognizes the work of these people and these individuals here tonight makes it all the more special that we're all a part of this noble exercise. Many of them, as I said, I've interacted with them. Mr. Austin Jack Warner, I've interviewed you so many times on television over the years, and of course, I even voted for you, sir. I even voted for you. Professor Brinsley Samaru, you know, I never told you in all my numerous interactions, and the other day we shook hands at the launch of the book on Adrian Cola Rienzi, that my late uncle, Shane Bikram, who was a playwright, was named after you by my late mother, Brinsley. So he's actually Shane Brinsley Bikram. And of course, it's been such a pleasure to have met you over the years. Ken Ali, what can I say? I was Chief Executive Officer, you were the General Manager, and we made waves, didn't we? It's great to see you here, the wonderful scribe that you are. And of course, my mother described him as one of the finest writers that she had ever met. Sophia Karen Choate. Well, I've rarely met Sophia outside of the media, but your mother did teach my two children, my last two. And this, of course, the Choate family is one that is very known in Rio Claro. And Sophia, you yourself have gone on to distinguish yourself nationally. Mr. Trevor Lynch, well, I could call him my partner, and we've served on a board together recently, and just the other day, I was actually down here completing a movie, and of course, I had some time to interact with him. Dr. William Danisa, well, I've been close to the Ramcoon family, and of course, so many others out of Rio Claro, and of course, Navit, and Mayaro, and Dr. William Danisa is certainly no exception. In terms of my interactions from him, from a young married man, was the very first time I met him. The Order of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, no one deserves it more than you, sir. And one of the best books I ever read was one that you gave to me. Do you remember that? The Tipping Point. Mr. Winston Dukaran. What an honor and a pleasure to be in the room with you, and I served as your communications director just before you took government in 2010. It was an honor to serve with you. So, ladies and gentlemen, these are all these extraordinary people. Of course, Matthew Pear is here. Matthew's the only one I didn't interact with, and I'm going to get the pleasure of meeting you here tonight and finding out who you are. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, that's my personal side of things. I'd like to move on and bring the man who was responsible for giving me one of the best locations for filming. And you'll see it coming out very soon. He doesn't sleep. He returns your calls, which is something I can't even say about my wife. He's the chairman of the Mayaro Rio Claro Regional Corporation. And let's welcome him to bring us greetings for the first annual Mayaro Legacy Awards 2022, Mr. Raymond Cozier.
Thank you very much, Mr. Anthony Ojoda. Benjamin Disraeli once said, "The legacy of heroes is the memory of a great name and inheritance of a great example." Member of Parliament, Mr. Rushton Paray, his beautiful wife and mother, present Member of Parliament, members of Parliament, former members of Parliament, specially invited guests, well-wishers, and our online viewing audience, good afternoon. Good afternoon, and welcome to the Miami of Trinidad. I always refer to Mayaro as the Miami of Trinidad. It brings me great honor to bring greetings on behalf of the Mayaro Rio Claro Regional Corporation at this auspicious event, the first annual Legacy Awards. You know, normally these kinds of events, we would have had to travel to Port of Spain. This kind of event, I don't want you all to clap as how you were clapping just now. I want a real clap to the Member of Parliament for bringing you to Mayaro to this event. Let's get a real clap. Thank you. Thank you. Firstly, I want to commend the Member of Parliament, Mr. Rushton Paray, and his staff for executing this important exercise as public recognition of community heroes. Serves as the ideal tool to ensure that legacies are honored, persons are inspired, and that relationships are strengthened. It is no secret that the region of Mayaro Rio Claro is home to extraordinary citizens. We are a community that is rich in culture, rich in value, rich in excellence, rich in history, and rich in community service and impact. Despite our developmental challenges and limited resources, as a rural community, we are widely known for our track record of hospitality, respect, community service, and beautiful eco-tourism. However, it is imperative that the region, by extension, the nation, knows that we raises heroes, icons, and legends. By honoring their lives and legacy, the baton will be passed on to the younger generations. Today, I wish to just speak briefly on the theme of legacy. I would have opened my speech with a quote by Disraeli that legacy of heroes is the memory of a great name and the inheritance of a great example. But I wish to add one thing. The legacy of heroes is also the countless acts of selfless service and measurable impact created. Your legacy is one you will leave behind. In life, people may forget your name. They may forget what was even your job. But they will never forget the impact you left on the community and the country. This is why I was extremely pleased to see the listing of awardees. Each and every one of the awardees tonight embodies qualities of excellence, dedication, and commitment to walking in their purpose in their respective fields. I want to say thank you to Mr. Winston Dukaran former acting Prime Minister. I want to say thank you to Mr. William Danessa, Mr. Matthew Pierre, Mr. Austin Jack Warner, another acting Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, my friend Mr. Trevor Lynch, Mr. Ken Ali, my friend Dr. Brinsley Samaru, former Member of Parliament, Miss Sophia Choate, SC, Senior Counsel, Mr. Michael Anthony. Your life is a living example that life is not just about accumulation, but also contribution. In closing, it is my hope that persons are inspired by your successes of these, by the successes of these awardees that have broken the stigma of rural communities. Rio Claro produces legends, and we are grateful for this honorable example that you have contributed to Trinidad and Tobago. God bless us all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cozier. And of course, you mentioned Michael Anthony, and I failed to do so at the beginning. Michael Anthony, of course, just about 5 years ago, three years ago actually, the film Green Days by the River was produced. It was one of the few times that a writer as prolific as Michael Anthony, his work would have been put on international film. And of course, I spent many, many years with him on the morning show as we discussed the history of Trinidad and Tobago. He loved it. And he has asked, I remember one of the last things he requested is that if we could get together with a couple of filmmakers and make a year in San Fernando. So, of course, he couldn't be here with us, but members of the family will be accepting the award this evening. The man of the moment, the reason why we're all here, because this became his brainchild, and it's easy to understand why if you know Rushton Paray as well as I do. Comes from such a noble family, two wonderful people bringing forth a son who is certainly a great son of the soil, not only the son of the Parays. Here to bring you greetings is the Member of Parliament for Mayaro, Mr. Rushton Paray. Please welcome.
Why are you ready? Push, big, Rio, I hear a new word on this round. Rushton Paray, MP for this town. Mayaro go get better. Why you go get better for the kids, them and wrong. This is a business man with a plan.
That song won me an election, by the way, so just putting it outside there. Very pleasant good evening to everyone. Master of Ceremony, thank you very much for that very warm introduction. Legacy. We had a meeting as to what we are going to call this program, and the term legacy jumped out at us. So there were some queries from my staff, very bright young people at the MP's office. MP explained why you want to use the term legacy. And a legacy can be used as a noun, as a gift in a lot of areas, a lot of terms, as an inheritance as well, that you pass down through generations. So, welcome to this, our inaugural Mayaro Legacy Awards ceremony of 2022. My heartfelt gratitude and thank you to the recipients for accepting our invitation to receive this show of appreciation on behalf of all 41,000 citizens who belong to the constituency of Mayaro and by extension Trinidad and Tobago. Let me acknowledge the presence of my mother, who is a legacy in her own right. Please give her a round of applause. Here this evening is my beautiful wife, Nalisha, and my daughter, who is here with us this evening. I begged my father to come, but he says he's having knee problems. And in looking at the weather report, he decided to stay home. Daddy, the weather report does be kind of a little crazy these days. He said, well, I will look at it on the live stream. So he decided to stay home. My parliamentary colleagues who are here this evening, the MP for Chaguanas West, Mr. Dinesh Rambali, MP for Komoto Manzilla, Dr. Rai Ragbir, and I think Senator Damian Leida is on his way. My good friend, Dr. Dilip Lan, who is our featured speaker today. Our group CEOs who are here who participated in sponsoring this program today. Many of you are in the audience. Mr. Kiran Singh, President of the Greater San Fernando Chamber. And most importantly, our awardees for today. I know Hansley has some very nice scripted rationale as to why the awardees who we've chosen today and who are among us are here today, and I will not go too deep into that. But over the years, several persons within this region, which is the Mayaro constituency, and I want to clarify the difference between Mayaro and the Mayaro constituency. Mayaro is a community where Trevor and I live. Mayaro constituency, it's a 201 square mile geographic area comprising of 26 communities. So sometimes as MP, when I use the word Mayaro, I get a bit of licks. They say, what happened to we in Rio Claro? But I use it in the way that it's Mayaro as a constituency. And those of the decisions that I refer to, they've all excelled in several areas: law, medicine, business, art, culture, music, engineering, and so many more. And they have excelled at a national level and an international level. And these are all men and women who would have been born in Mayaro constituency, various communities throughout the constituency. And they would have gone to school and they would have had their formative years in Rio Claro, Mayaro, and they went on to do great things. Now, having served as a Member of Parliament for the last 6.5 years, every year I submit names to the National Award Committee for consideration for national awards, and, well, they still have to get back to me on that. So unfortunately, none of my recommendations have borne any fruits. So therefore, my team and I, we decided that we will take matters into our own hands and we will host our own celebration. And thank you very much for all of you for braving the weather and coming to Mayaro today. I strongly believe that children in rural communities such as ours are locked-necked by their environment into thinking that success is based on ethnicity, class, and sometimes who you know. That syndrome which exists in most societies. I also believe that we have forgotten the art of storytelling. And I know Dr. Samru will speak a bit on that in his own writings and some challenges he has had. We no longer spend time handing down fables and folklore, home remedies, urban legends, personal experiences, and past struggles. Inside of that shortcoming as well, we forget the people in our communities who are doing, who have done, and who are earmarked for great things. Oftentimes, we allow our children to seek out role models who bring nothing but barren ideas to their impressionable young minds. As an adult society, we are tasked with the shaping and sculpting of the next generation of inventors, innovators, freedom fighters, legal luminaries, medical, scientific, and space explorers. We, all of us in this room, are tasked with providing hope to our young proteges for a better Trinidad and Tobago. As members of Parliament, I see our role as shapers of thought, movers of obstacles, and beacons which provide directions. We are messengers of hope. Our words
and actions must always have depth, meaning, and significance. It is with this background in mind, I decided to host this inaugural Mayaro Legacy Awards ceremony, where 9 of our distinguished citizens who were born and endured early childhood within the greater Mayaro constituency. Each of our awardees today have been shaped by circumstances, molded by their environment, and persevered against all odds. They have achieved what most may feel was impossible. Perhaps many would have thought that it may be mission impossible, but their presence here today is testimony that survival is built on sacrifice. My intended outcome today is to present our awardees and their relevant accomplishments as seeds that will be planted in the hearts and minds of our young constituents who are looking on online platforms, which is their media of the 21st century. After the presentations today, they must understand that struggle is a part of life and the process of living. As my mother reminded me many, many times, nothing good in this life comes easy. Greatness is but a heartbeat away, but you must want it. Can't offer it and stuff it down somebody's throat, but they must want it. The list that we present today of our 9 awardees is by no means an exhaustive one. We will continue to celebrate persons within the constituency as my term of office continues, and I am sure I am here until 2025. Not sure beyond that. But it is my hope that these legacy awards symbolizes a gift that will be an inheritance that will be passed down to generation of young Mayaro constituents. So to my young constituents out there, may this be your North Star, always be the guide, the direction, and a foundation to stand on as you reach for the stars. To our awardees, you are all beautiful and shimmering. We are all better off for being in your light. This event today would not be possible without our corporate sponsors, whom companies are all listed behind me and in the back of your program. And many of them spared no time in getting on board with the idea when they saw who the awardees were. I also want to thank my hardworking parliamentary staff who had 2 weeks basically to put all of this together. I would have worked extremely hard to get it to where it is today. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I will allow you to enjoy the balance of the evening. At the end of the evening, we have a wonderful dinner prepared. I hope many of you will stick around, meet our awardees, have a little conversation, and enjoy the balance of the evening. So thank you very much. Thank you for accepting our invitation, and thank you for turning up and showing that we in Mayaro can provide and can put out programs of these quality and class. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
MP, your father and I was hoping that he would have been here because we were still in the major debate of who did the better version of 12th of Never, whether it was Johnny Mathis or Donny Osmond. But he's not here, so I suppose I'll call him later. Please give him a round of applause. Member of Parliament for Mayaro, Rushton Paray. What a noble exercise. You know, I was coming down here with the president of the Greater San Fernando Chamber of Commerce. We left San Fernando to come here, and we were talking about the roads coming into Mayaro, and we made one interesting remark. I said, could you imagine these people who we're honoring here, what they would have had to face in their time? And we're complaining now in 2022. But yes, the legacy is certainly there, and the mark is indeed there. We have a musical item here for you, something to relax to. and it's from Rochelle Harinarayan. She's a saxophonist hailing from Rio Claro. She started playing the saxophone at the age of 9. Renelle is a self-taught saxophonist since she didn't have a saxophone tutor at the time she started. Despite not having a tutor, Renelle persevered and was determined to learn the saxophone. At high school, Renelle studied music theory and has attained a grade 1 in CSEC music along with a distinction certificate from Trinity College in London in grade 7. Renelle has won many music festivals and has been awarded by her community where she lives in Rio Claro for her contributions towards music in her community. She is currently a member of the Trinbago Woodwind and Brass Orchestra and is a saxophone tutor for the orchestra as well. Aside from Renelle's musical talent, she's a radiographer, an accomplishment which she takes pride in. She often refers to herself as a radio saxophographer. Even I couldn't pronounce that. Anyway, to combine her two passions, music and, of course, radiography. Renelle Harinarayan is passionate about music and believes that her talent is a gift from God. She wants to share her ministry with everyone that she comes in contact with, and we're going to do so here this evening. Please welcome Renelle Harinarayan. give the radio saxographer a round of applause again, please. As we move along, because I'm anxious to meet all these wonderful people here, and you know, when that radio saxographer came up, do you remember us having to deal with photo takeouters over the years? Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for feature address. Professor Dilip Dan attended medical school at the University of the West Indies Mona campus and did his residency in general surgery at the State University of New York, the SUNY, in Buffalo, New York, following which he completed a fellowship in advanced, and again, we are having all these very large things. He's going to tell you exactly what it is. He returned to Trinidad in 2003, and he pioneered these advanced surgeries, which he's going to describe to you. And he has certainly done so out of the Caribbean. But we've read so much about Dr. Dilip Dan, and of course, he continues to make his mark here in Trinidad and Tobago, particularly in the medical fraternity. But what's interesting is that he comes from this truly extraordinary community we call Rio Claro. And I've had many, many debates on why would a place like Rio Claro put out the likes of individuals such as this. What was it that this community had that was able to produce so many special people? And just this morning, Fazir Mohammed was in an interview talking about that horrid killing in San Fernando. And he was saying that these young men who are doing this now, is it that we have to take them back to minding goats and milking and getting up early in the morning? And I remember Dr. Tim Gopi Singh telling me sleeping on a pal and pulling rice and that. Do we have to return to that in order for them to understand the value of human life and the country in which you were born? Because I'm sure many of you, when you speak about it today, you will testify to that. Maybe Dr. Dilip Dan can do so in his feature address. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome him, Dr. Dilip Dan, Professor Dilip Dan.
Good evening. Thank you very much for that very kind introduction, Mr. Chairman. Honorable Member of Parliament, Mr. Rushton Paray, other MPs, honorees, members of the organizing committee, and especially invited guests. And if I were to go through each and every one of these distinguished people here tonight, certainly that would be the end of the speech. So permit me to say all protocols observed. It is indeed an honor to be given this opportunity at this very special occasion and function where we recognize the contributions and achievements of these Rio Claro, Mayaro born stalwarts. Oftentimes, we fail to recognize the value of our own people and the contributions of our own people, even though these same people are highly regarded outside of the area, outside of the country, outside of the region, internationally. So at the outset, I would like to thank the Honorable Member of Parliament, and soon to be Minister, sorry, for the extremely fitting venture to recognize our own people. But having spoken to the Minister on first why he would choose to have me speak when we have so many distinguished people here in this audience and proven speakers, and then to ask, well, what should I speak to these accomplished individuals on? It was a tough ask, and it took me a couple of days to respond to the invitation to accept, because I felt intimidated by all these accomplished individuals. So I asked him, I said, what and why would you want me here? And he said, listen, he said, all I want is for you to speak to the young people of Rio Claro Mayaro, so that they would recognize the struggles that these honorees, and myself included, would have gone through to reach where we are. And it's only then I said, yes, okay, I will accept. So thank you for that. So as I pondered on my own journey, I understand that the journey that I did was no different from the journey that all these honorees and so many others in Rio Claro Mayaro did. And that the journey I made was in medicine, or surgery. So did Dr. Danisa, Mr. Dukran in finance, Mr. Trevor Lynch in business and entrepreneurship, Mr. Jack Warner in business and sports administration, same with Mr. Matthew Pear, Dr. Michael Anthony and Professor Brinty Samaru in history and writing, and Mr. Ken Ali, obviously, as an outstanding journalist. And there are many others, that could have been recognized. I understand that the journey that all of these people and myself did is no different to the ones that our cousins in Debe and Barakpur and Toku, nor the ones faced by our forefathers in Africa, coming from Africa or India, as they transitioned from slavery and indentureship to establish permanent marks on the civilization of Trinidad and Tobago. So I would like to recognize just 3 components or 3 factors which I think was responsible for some of these successes obtained. 1, responsibility. I think the price of greatness is responsibility, and this is what Winston Churchill said. So the upbringing in the country areas, as Mr. Paray would have referred to, and again the chairperson, Mr. Bajoda, was different from that of the city area, especially 50, 60 years ago. Homes consisted of extended families, and I was glad to talk to Mrs. Paray, who says that Rushton is still living with her and eating her own food in the same house. So that's how we were. And most of those families lived in harmony. Villagers worked together for the good of the community. So a solid value system with respect, honesty, truth, integrity was drilled into our heads as we grew up. There was supervision and oversight system both at home, in the extended family, the school, and the villagers. So as kids, we were all part of the workforce of the family as well, because all hands on deck were required to provide the basic needs. We recognized early that assuming responsibility was a key element to success, and that this is one trait I think is every successful and respected leader must possess. Parents of today, and I am also guilty, have not allowed our kids to assume responsibility by over-providing, over-protecting, and yielding too easily to their wants and desires. We of that older generation, and I say older because I have crossed the 50 mark a few years ago. I know Mr. Dukran didn't believe that. Wanted to give our kids all that we couldn't have so that they don't face the struggles that we face. Parents are afraid to school their kids. It's against the law for teachers to use corporal punishment. And certainly there is no interaction with our neighbor, with our villagers, fellow villagers, because we don't know our neighbors for the most part. Unfortunately, the result is that much of the younger generation has attained a sense of bold-faced entitlement, which is a difficult challenge to deal with as a society. We are facing this in our schools. We face it in university, in the workforce, and society at large. This is just one factor of several to explain the decay in societal values. But as Mr. Warner would say, we would leave that talk for another day. Suffice it to say that all is not lost with our kids because they're far brighter than we would have ever been. We must find ways, however, to channel and use their potential to create a society that they can live comfortably in. The second point, education. Nelson Mandela said education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Having understood the struggles of our forefathers and the difficulties they endured and the amount of work they did for a measly day's pay, it was necessary to find a passport out of poverty. We must remember and commend the hard work done by people like Mr. Satyanarayan Maharaj and the SDMS, God bless his soul, the ASJA, the Presbyterian Board, as well as the other school boards, to create schools and place them in locations accessible for our people. Indeed, another one of our accomplished Rio-born stalwarts, Mr. Robin Maharaj, along with my own father, who enrolled in the first class in the Rio Claro Hindu School, which I also attended. And I cannot underplay the foresight of my own parents, who didn't have more than that primary school education, not by choice, but by force, having to work to provide at a very early age for the rest of the family, but yet ensured that we had an education. But being educated alone does not imply being successful. Education, perseverance, hard work, sacrifice, and commitment are other ingredients to create a successful individual. And it was Martin Luther King who said, the function of education is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. Intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education. Today we take education for granted. The kids are quickly realizing, however, that the traditional schooling system that is currently in place may not prepare them for the rapidly changing workplace. But today we have jobs that never existed 50 years ago, and tomorrow those jobs will become obsolete, all thanks to the information technology. Most homes when I grew up didn't have a phone. We didn't have a phone. There were no computers for sure, no internet, no Wi-Fi. I got my acceptance letter, and I'm sure many others, through a telegram, something most kids have no clue except the app Telegram. And I told my son, he said, no, there's an app called Telegram. I said, okay. Today's teaching and learning is very different. I dare say more effective. And certainly, almost everything is available from the comfort of one's own computer. And you can get information from Google anywhere, anytime, on anything. I'm not sure, though, that the education system would have survived if the COVID pandemic, which we've just been through or are going through, had hit 50 years ago. Imagine the challenges we face now, despite having a relatively IT-ready society. And think of what would have happened then when there was total shutdown. We now have classes, conferences, meetings using Zoom, which is very cost-effective and efficient, saving stress of travel with our congested roads, as mentioned already. And we can reach people in remote areas, in and out of the country. So when put to good use, the information technology has really transformed our education system in a very positive way. However, we do have the drawbacks that can be quite destructive. We are all aware of the dangers of social media. No need to go into that. And some of them in terms of the bad influences, but we also have, and not easily recognized, the interpersonal relationships that are lost, the physical inactivity which becomes a part of this whole IT technology, and then the health consequences. Today's opportunities for furtherance of education are immense, and our kids must use them, and we must encourage that. The third and last thing I want to talk about is self-determination. And this is where I would talk a little on my own travel. Gandhiji said, if I have the belief I can do it, I shall surely acquire the capacity to do it, even if I may not have it in the beginning. This principle, I felt, was responsible for my own success. People thought and still think I was a bright fellow who excelled because of some natural gift that I was given. But I recognized early that I was a slow learner. I understood that the donkey could go as far as the car would go. It would just take longer. So I worked harder than everyone around me to compensate for that. I aimed high and never lost sight of the goal ahead. Permit me, Honorable MP, to just give one personal example where hard work and determination paid off. As you would have heard, I graduated from medical school in 1993 at UWI in Mona, and then I went on to the US. Then I applied for surgical training in the United States. I got one interview, and this was in Buffalo, New York. Predominantly white, and at a time when foreign medical graduates didn't have much of a chance in the United States, especially to do surgery. So my first visit to the United States was at the end of January 1996 in Buffalo, New York. I arrived the night of the Super Bowl, and the Buffalo Bills were playing. Not that that meant anything to me at the time, because I didn't know better. Buffalo was getting hit hard with a snowstorm, 6 feet of snow, wind chills less than minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit. I would learn late in my later years that this was normal, everyday weather in Buffalo for 9 months of the year. But that the operating theater was much nicer and warmer than the outside, and was certainly the best place for me. So the day before the interview, I met some white trainees. So I felt brave, and I went up to them and I started talking. All I got from them was discouragement. There's no need to be here. You might as well pack your bags and go home. And that's probably true, because there's hardly ever you'd see a black person succeed in a predominantly white community in an area in surgery. I went to the interview anyway, borrowed a coat from a friend in Trinidad to go up. I didn't have gloves, so I bought a cloth glove, didn't know better, in Miami Airport in transit. I had a pair of moccasins on, didn't know that you need winter shoes. And I had the hotel receptionist tie a tie for me, because I didn't know, first time I'm tying a tie. Well, somehow I got lucky, or God smiled on me, and I got what is termed a preliminary year, which is 1 year, not a categorical. A categorical spot is where you're given a position for 5 years, they will train you, you will most likely finish. But they gave me 1 year. I said, okay. I said to myself, I had 1 foot in. I'm intent on getting the other one in soon. So I worked harder, as I said, than any other resident, and studied harder as well. And we worked from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. every night. And then every third day, we're on call 24 hours and go till 9 p.m. the next night anyway. So on average, about 120 hours a week. I slept for 2 to 3 hours a night as I studied for the rest of the time. And there was a national exam at the end of each year. And all the residents, all of America took. And you ranked among all these residents in the country. I topped this exam among all residents in all years in Buffalo. And operated at a level much higher than the US trainee. So the surgeons there enjoyed working with me, much to the dissatisfaction of the other senior residents. The trainees are called residents. So it was time to leave at the end of the first year. But the staff begged for the program director to find a way to keep me. There were no categorical openings available. So they decided they will scrape some money, some funds, some research, and so on to give me 1 more year. I did the same thing the next year, and this really placed them in a quandary. So to resolve this, the decision was to fire one of the categorical residents to keep me, which I was sad for the colleague, but happy for myself. So at the end of the 5 years, I went on to do a further fellowship, as mentioned, in bariatric and laparoscopic surgery, where we do minimally invasive little tiny cuts through the abdomen and so on. So we do all the obesity surgeries, the colons, and all the tumors in the colon and so on. We do it all laparoscopic now. And I was there for 18 months. But I didn't know what was happening in Buffalo. I remember I finished my residency training and I left. And I'm heading back to Trinidad now. But a friend in Buffalo called me to ask me if she can get my office in Buffalo. I said, what office? They had assumed I would return to Buffalo and created a job for me as assistant professor in the Department of Surgery, State University of New York, without me interviewing or even being aware that this was happening. They just assumed I was going to come back and continue as an associate professor there. I have the nameplate on the door that they took, so that's how I know for sure. Later on, the program director would have come to Trinidad on several occasions on my invitation, and also as an examiner, because I would have brought him down at the university exams. And then he understood why I came back, because he always thought I was going to stay. But I told him no, and he met family, and he understood the value of coming back to Trinidad. The moral of the story, and again, the story is not for people here, it's for the people outside, the younger people, is that hard work always pays off. And we can compensate for our shortcomings by making the sacrifices. But we must take the opportunities given, though, and be positive despite failing along the way. There are many other areas we can talk about, but tonight we're here to hear from so many others that have achieved far greater than I have. It was really an honor to be invited to speak here this evening, and want to congratulate MP Paray again and the organizing committee for such a wonderful event, and thank all our honorees for their contribution to Trinidad and Tobago. As a final word to the young ones out there, do not make poverty an excuse for not being a successful individual. Lift yourself by yourself, the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, verse 5. Work hard, work honest. Surround yourself with positive people. Focus, and don't be afraid to fall. And as Mahatma Gandhi said, in a gentle way, you can shake the world. Thank you very much.
Dr. Dan, can I ask you to return? And yes, thank you for teaching me about laparoscopic and bariatric surgery. Incidentally, you know, there was a report that came out speaking about the increase in colon cancer in Trinidad and Tobago that they're starting to see. I lost 4 members of my family to it. I'd like to, and the reason why I've asked you up here is that I'd like Mrs. Paray, Mrs. Delisha Paray, to come on and just do a special presentation to you, Dr. Dan. And I'm so grateful that you also mentioned about responsibility. We just lost Her Majesty the Queen, and you know, it was one of the things that they spoke about, responsibility and duty. Thank you very much. Certainly encouraging words from Dr. Dilip Dan. Please give him a round of applause. Professor Dilip Dan. Thank you, Mrs. Paray, as well. I'd like to tell you about a very special group here to entertain you before we hear from our specially invited awardees. It's a group called MIL. It's a newly founded band established back, well, in this year, 2022. MIL, in its unabbreviated term, Music is Life. It's a dynamic blend of artists known for their thirst for success, love, and, of course, their love for music. Their chemistry on stage is unquestionable. You saw them earlier. And it's effortless, absolutely, to perform all genres of music. April Jairam is of Mayaro, and Tamu Aguilera of Sangre Grande are the 2 powerhouses who are the lead vocalists, and their main objective is to do what they love and love what they do. And of course, to satisfy the request of the client at any occasion. And of course, this special evening here. So let's welcome again April and Tamu.
Thank you for that beautiful introduction. Now, I would like to specifically, I want you all to give yourselves a round of applause for looking so beautiful tonight. You guys look beautiful. I hope you all like the song.
Each day I live, I want to be a day to give the best of me. I'm only one, but not alone. My finest day is yet unknown. I broke my heart, fought every game to taste the sweet. I face the pain, I rise and fall, yet through it all, this one remains. I want one moment in time when I'm more than I thought I could be, when all of my dreams are a heartbeat away and the answers are all up to me. Give me one moment in time when I'm racing with destiny, and in this one moment of time I would feel eternity. I want to be the very best. I want it all, no time for less. I've laid the plans, now lay the chance here in my hands. Give me one moment in time when I'm all that I thought I could be, when all of my dreams are a heartbeat away and the answers are all up to me. Give me one moment in time when I'm racing with destiny. There in that one moment of time I will feel eternity. Oh, you're a winner for a lifetime if you seize that one moment in time. Make it shine. Give me one moment in time when I'm all that I thought I could be, when all of my dreams are a heartbeat away and the answers are all up to me. Give me one moment in time when I'm racing with destiny. Then in that one moment of time I will feel, I will be free. Oh, I will be free. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies. And it's there. And it's time for that moment in time when we meet our awardees here tonight. Once again, I'd like to congratulate the team of the Member of Parliament for Mayaro, Mr. Rushton Paray, because this is so far an exceptional evening, MP. And, we're inside an hour already. Inside of it still. And we're now at the point of the awardees. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the moment that we've been waiting for, to meet all these extraordinary people, all in one room here in Mayaro. And we begin with the presentation of these awards, and I'll be calling the names and, of course, reading the biographies. We'll ask everyone to stand by. Mr. Austin Jack Warner is one of the Caribbean's most accomplished and internationally recognizable personalities. Mr. Warner has served for many years in several disciplines, Born at Eli Street in the town center of Rio Claro, he won a scholarship that allowed him to study at what is now called Presentation College, Chaguanas. He later earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in history from the University of the West Indies and a diploma in international relations. He was a teacher at Northeastern College and later in history in sociology at university. A passion for football led him into the administration of the game, and he served for 16 years from 1973 as the secretary of the National Football Federation. From that post, he rose steadily and indeed quickly. In 1983, he joined the executive committee of the world governing body FIFA as vice president of the hemispheric region called CONCACAF. In 1990, he became president of FIFA, and in 1997, he was elected as vice president of the global body. His service in public affairs includes being chairman of the United National Congress, a member of parliament, and a senior government minister. He has provided wide-ranging services in sports, governance, representational politics, and related activities. He is currently the editor and publisher of the country's only weekly newspaper. There you go, Ken, only. He has it on you. And continues to contribute to the intellectual life of Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean. And I remember once I made an appointment to see him, and the young lady told me 3 o'clock. I said, would that be 3 p.m.? She said, no, 3 a.m. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Austin Jack Warner.
I am normally one who is never at a loss for words, but tonight is an exception. I'm truly lost for words because in a country where one is only valorized when one dies, and you hear him talking about the person in the coffin, and you ask yourself, who is that? Because what they are saying about the person when the person is dead, you never hear him say when the person is alive. And tonight, this evening, I want to thank MP Rushton Paray and his team, and all of you who are here tonight. You have made me, I really can't find the words. You have made me extremely happy. I feel very appreciated. And I want to say again that I am very, very thrilled and touched by the kind sentiments expressed here this evening. I thank you all.
Mr. Austin Jack Warner. Thank you, sir. Professor Brinsley Samaru was born at Ecclesville, Rio Claro, where he also spent his early years. He attended Naparima College and later studied at Delhi and London universities. Dr. Samaru distinguished himself as a history lecturer at the University of the West Indies and the University of Trinidad and Tobago, the UTT. While at UWI, he rose to become head of the history department. Professor Samaru has researched and written extensively on the history of Trinidad and Tobago. In his works, particular focus is paid to working class movements, Indo-Caribbean history, and political and institutional development. Apart from excelling in academia, Professor Samaru also served his country in public affairs. He served as an opposition senator during the Second Republican Parliament. He was subsequently elected to the House of Representatives in 1986 as a member of Nariva, as a candidate of the National Alliance for Reconstruction. Dr. Samaru served variously as Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister, Minister of Decentralization, and Minister of Food Production and Marine Exploitation. Professor Samaru has made a tremendous contribution to the growth and development of modern Trinidad and Tobago. He has not only educated us on our history, but participated and contributed immensely to the progress and evolution of the young society. Professor Brinsley Samaru.
Yeah, let me say how delighted I am to be in this kind of company that comes from all over Rio Mayaro. And I just want to suggest to all of us that this is a precious gem. It should be the most precious gem in our treasure box of treasured memories. Because this is the only time that this group is meeting as it is today, with the same kind of people, so that we must treasure every moment this evening, remembering everyone who is here, which would inspire us for the rest of our lives. And I have to say that in a lot of my travels abroad in various countries, whenever I was in a difficult position, I always thought about how would the people of Navet or Ecclesville or Rio Claro, how would they deal with this problem? And in thinking about it in the same way that Dr. Dan spoke about, you get ideas, you get inspiration, you know how to move. And I want to pay a special tribute to the person who preceded me, Mr. Jack Warner, because I remember his father very well, coming and selling ice, big blocks of ice in Ecclesville every Sunday. And somebody would shout out, "Mr. Daru on the road. Mr. Daru is on the road." Mr. Daru, of course, was the father of our illustrious Jack Warner. And I was quite honored to be among his lecturers at the University of the West Indies. And I think Rio Mayaro ought to be very proud that we have produced such a person as Mr. Austin Jack Warner. Now, there's one little comment that the Member of Parliament made that disturbed me. And I just want to tell you. He said that year after year, they put up people from here for national awards, and they don't ever get it. But I simply want to say that the next time you have a list of national awardees from this area that you're putting up, have a chat with me. I believe I can assist in that area. So we won't have to have necessarily special occasions to honor people of this area, but that they can be part of the national wheel when it comes to national awards. The other point I want to make is that I did a good deal of research about historic places in Rio Mayaro. About 2 or 3 years ago, the county council hired 2 young ladies to interview me at length, which they did over a number of months. And as I told the Member of Parliament, and as the chairman of the regional corporation knows, that report is hidden somewhere in Rio Claro. And the CAO over the years has not released that report. I want to make a public appeal here this evening to have that report, which I had prepared for the county council, to be released so that I can have a look at it and I can improve on it. What is the whole point of that? Rio Mayaro can become a leading tourist center for Trinidad and Tobago and for the Caribbean. And we have the information which I prepared, which is being hidden. So I want to make a public appeal this evening that possibly the Member of Parliament, possibly Mr. Blackett, somebody should extract that report from the County Council. Let me have a look at it again so I can improve on it and add to the glories and the great history of this particular place. And I'm making an offer that once I get that and once I can improve on it, I will have classes, possibly right here, where I'll train 20 or 30 young people so that they can take the task of making Mayaro an important tourist center. So I'm making that offer this evening, and this must be about the 10th time that I'm saying this publicly, which tells you how frustrated I am about having done that work, and it just remains hidden as some secret documents. So I wouldn't spend more time, I wouldn't take more of your time, except to say how honored I feel that the place of my own nativity has decided to grant me this honor. Thank you very much.
It's always lovely to hear him. Dr. Brinsley Samaru. Mr. Ken Ali is a career communications professional. Mr. Ali, who spent his formative years in Rio Claro, has been a journalist for 48 years. He has served widely as a newspaper reporter, commentator, and analyst, as well as an editor and regional and international news correspondent. He has also done electronic media broadcasting on public affairs. Mr. Ali has also served extensively in media administration. He's a former executive in the national print media and chief executive officer of the state-owned electronic broadcaster. He has done wide-ranging reporting and commentaries on national and regional matters for almost 5 decades. He has provided media coverage of every Trinidad and Tobago election since 1976. He has edited various publications and has tutored and mentored several media professionals. He has guest lectured at tertiary institutions. In 1996, he was involved in a historic press freedom court trial, with his stance being vindicated by both the local appeal court and the London-based Privy Council. Mr. Ali continues to provide media reporting and commentaries, both of which are informed by his vast industry experience and broad worldwide view. He has written a book on his professional career and his insights on the Caribbean community. And this book would be published within the next few months. And I would just like to say, finally. Finally. Mr. Ken Ali, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much. First, Mr. Hansley Achoda, one of the Caribbean's top thespians and communications professionals. And we've applauded everyone this evening. Kindly give Mr. Achoda a round of applause. I also want to say, Hans, publicly, I see that the position of James Bond is available. I don't know if it's relevant in this discussion. Honourable Member of Parliament, Mr. Rushton Paray, who is the host of the event. There are other members of Parliament, Mr. Ramberley, and Dr. Rai, and Mr. Senator. And I want to go through very quickly the protocol or other distinguished guests, if any distinguished guests, my fellow honorees. Also, this may be unusual, Hans, but I'm a great fan of Whitney Houston's music. And these singers are extraordinary. And I hope during the course of the evening, again, we'll hear them sing One Moment in Time. I just want to say to the audience this evening what I said to MP Parry when he brought, before I get on, even at my ripe old age, I want to say I was extraordinarily inspired by Professor Dan's address. I was extremely inspired, Professor. I would like to read it again. I liked everything about the way you presented it, and I'm trying to speak for Mr. Warner here. I suppose he'll publish it in his newspaper one day soon. I'm in a very distinguished company. I said to Mr. Paray when he said I was going to be one of the nominees here, I said, first, journalist, my job is to write people's stories. That is what we do. And I've written it for many years all over the place. And we are not accustomed to getting awards. I was quite surprised, heartened, humbled, extraordinarily humbled. When I left my parents' home at Tabakit Road in Rio Claro in 1974, I did not know I would be in this privileged company. And if Mr. Warner is emotional, I'm triply emotional. I am in the company of Mr. Winston Dukaran, one of the Caribbean's finest statesmen. And everyone else here, I'm in this distinguished company. I could go through, Mr. Lynch is one of the finest entrepreneurs in this part of the world, and in another society, he would be lecturing about himself at a tertiary institution, and so on and so forth. I just want to give one brief anecdote about Professor Samaru too. In the early 70s, when I graduated from what was then Rio Claro Government Secondary School, the FITI address at the valedictory function was delivered by one Dr. Brimsey Samaru. I find myself in his company this evening. The second comment is, I think he is a prolific writer, but I assume this is his latest work, a compelling research on Adrian Colerenzi, which I read, I devoured, and I wrote in Mr. Warner's newspaper. And what Professor Samaru struck me so much, because that is so well polished and so well researched, what struck me so much is how the labor and social justice issues of almost 100 years ago are still relevant today. I want to suggest, this is a team of distinguished people, I want to suggest that everyone reads that book. Professor Samaru, like Mr. Anthony, and so on, have made an indelible contribution to this society. And permit me to make just one or two brief other points. This much more distinguished people than myself may well determine that the post-independence and 1970 generation was the greatest generation. In all the Americans, I could talk about the greatest generation. It may well have been. And I don't know, maybe I'm partial to that era, but I was inspired by 1962 nationhood and 1970 revolution. I don't know if I see that kind of talent and resourcefulness and creativity in this generation. And I say all of that, Hans and other distinguished guests, to pay public tribute to a lady we lost today. And I was very emotional when I heard about the death of Hazel Brown. When I became a journalist many years ago, in the mid-70s, one of the first stories I wrote, and I followed her around, was Hazel Brown campaigning and marching on the public streets on the issue of cost of living. And she did that alone, and others gravitated. Hazel Brown is part of that generation, and we're losing a great generation. And throughout the years, Hans, you know you've interviewed her. I know you admired her too. And she would always remind me, remember those days? I used to be marching and so on. Hazel Brown is part of the treasure of Trinidad and Tobago. And we're losing those fine people. We lost Dave Elcock the other day, and so on and so forth. And as I end, Mr. Chairman, MPs, and so on, when I was coming here and I was driving past, I always wanted to say this, so just indulge me a little bit. I always wanted to say this. When I was at secondary school, our secondary school principal used to give us the Monday morning lectures and always gave us inspiring speeches. And I've always been inspired by great speeches. That is why, Professor Dan, I like what you said. And then one day he gave us a speech about someone who was an artist from Mayaro, great artist, but he had a physical deformity, and it was made it difficult for him. But he was a standing artist. And as his years went on, his deformity got worse. At the point where in his last years, he painted with the brush to his teeth. I went recently, I had a great friend, MP Paray, you may know who he is, who recently celebrated a wonderful, momentous wedding anniversary. So I went looking for a piece of Edwin Hingwan. That person who celebrated that anniversary is very close to the town of Mayaro. I went looking for Edwin Hingwan art. And when I asked in the art shop, the ladies' eyes bulged so. Edwin Hingwan, no, you don't get that around. It is premier art. Edwin Hingwan, they have named Hingwan Drive after him. He has died, he has moved on. And I say all of that to say to Member of Parliament, and I speak for everyone here, express tremendous gratitude to you for your leadership. You are an exemplar in the society. I am humbled to know you and trebly humbled that you've put me on the stage this evening. But there are people, as Professor Samaru has said, who this community has spawned up. And they're wonderful people, none more noble and wonderful than Mr. Winston Dukaran, none more so than Mr. Austin Jack Warner, and so many others. I'm humbled to be in the company. I'm sorry if I overtalk. Just let me end by saying this one thing. In my generation, when we were coming up in 1970, there was a term, Hans, called social consciousness. And we were all socially conscious. And that, people have not informed me about the issues I write on social justice. That more than anything else. And also, 1962 independence, my father was a great fan of nationhood and so on and so on. Well, social consciousness has come and gone. This generation speaks about being woke, staying woke, which is about fighting for social justice. So the young journalists, the youths, there are some young members of parliament and so on. I urge everyone to follow the lead of people, Mr. Warner, Mr. Tukaran, Professor Samaru, and others, in staying woke. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
Okay. Very beautiful, Ken. Very beautiful. It's interesting, I left a voice note on the MP's phone about social and societal consciousness. And it's certainly being displayed by you here tonight. And the speeches so far have been very touching, I must say, listening to all these extraordinary gentlemen. Mr. Matthew Peer is not only a major achiever in his chosen fields, but he continues to serve his communities in different capacities. Mr. Peer was born in the Mayaro district and attended the town's government primary school and later Nariva High School at Rio Claro. At the School of Management Studies, he attained a master's degree. At an early age, he developed tremendous prowess in the game of basketball. Young Matthew played with great success in local competitions and represented Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean and North America from 1980 to 1990. In 1984, he was selected to the CARICOM basketball team at Nassau in the Bahamas. He remains committed to the sport and is manager-coach of the Matthew Peer Basketball Academy, where he has more than 100 youths under his watch. Mr. Peer was also a hard-working councillor at the Rio Claro Mayaro Regional Corporation for 15 years from 1995. In 2012, he joined the BP Trinidad and Tobago, where he serves as a community liaison officer. Mr. Peer is a skilled and devoted son of the soil who is an inspiration to ambitious youths. Mr. Matthew Peer.
Thank you very much. I'm deeply honored to be considered to be one of the awardees here today. I'd like to express my sincere thanks, appreciation, and gratitude to MP Paray and his team for bringing this, having the vision to bring this here together today. Ainsley, in your earlier speech, you said what we have to do for the youths. And I want to say there are people who are doing. Let me just say this. I've represented Trinidad and Tobago basketball. I've served as a local government councillor, 15 years. I'm presently employed at BP Trinidad and Tobago. My office is right here. And I have my basketball academy. Hundreds of youths, like from Mayaro, all the secondary schools. And this is what brings joy to me. I am here to say that we have to act. We have to stop talking. We have to keep hope alive for the young people. I'm happy that we talk today about inspiring young people to be a better version of themselves. We who have walked the journey has to continue and not give up on young people. One of my good friends walked into my academy and he said, "This is not a basketball program, this is Crime Stoppers." That is happening here. Because they may not make it to the NBA, but they'll make it in life. Thanks for having me.
Well said. Well said, and I certainly agree with you, Mr. Pierre, because back in 1998, I joined a little group that I started promoting. There were just 4 of them who had just been released from prison. And they came to see me at TTT. And from there now, it's over 1,000 strong as we deal with men who even fought in the war of Iraq and dealing with our youth. And one of the things that that organization taught me is that you could never write off anybody. And the gratitude of youth when you believe in them. And it's one of the reasons why I stayed with the group. That group is Vision on Mission, the late Wayne Chance. And it continues still today. And thank you, Mr. Pierre, because I certainly agree with you and I've experienced it myself. Ladies and gentlemen, congratulations to all the awardees. Please give them a lusty round of applause. Mr. Austin Jack Warner, Professor Brinsley Samaru, Mr. Ken Alley, and Mr. Matthew Pierre. Before we move on to the other awardees, let's bring on this wonderful saxophonist, or as some of our colleagues might say, saxophonist, Miss Renelle Harry-Narayan, to give us a musical break. And MP, we are moving along quite fine. Please give Miss Harry-Narayan a round of applause. Homegrown. Please. As we move on with our list of awardees, it's my pleasure, of course, to name Mr. Michael Anthony, one of the most renowned historians and authors of Trinidad and Tobago. He was born in Mayaro and attended the Mayaro Roman Catholic School. He later attended the Junior Technical College of San Fernando. In the mid-1950s, young Michael left Trinidad and Tobago to live in England, where he worked at the Reuters news agency, and so began an outstanding career as a writer. Before returning to the land of his birth in 1970 to work as an editor and a diplomat, he spent 2 years in Brazil. Over the years, Mr. Anthony has become a prolific writer of Caribbean literature, contributing to more than 30 titles. He has recorded history, written novels and short stories, and shared his perspective views on communities and people, including Caribbean folklore. His brilliant and extensive writings are timeless and a reliable source of research and study. His works are available in his own publications and incorporated in various compilations. His illuminating book, Green Days by the River, of his community life in Mayaro, was made into a motion picture. This has become adapted into a highly successful and a really fascinating movie which has played around the world already. In 1979, Mr. Anthony was awarded the Hummingbird Gold Medal, and in 2003, he received an honorary doctorate from the University of the West Indies. In 2012, Michael Anthony received the Nallis Lifetime Literary Award. He is truly one of the Caribbean's literary giants, Michael Anthony. Of course, he could not be here. An MP is telling me, Mr. Cozier, you will be receiving the award on his behalf. Chairman? Michael Anthony, incidentally, MP, lived on Long Circular Road, and I used to visit there after we finished on television. And there he has maps that are very, very old. And I think when you're setting up your museum here in Mayaro with all these fine people, there's so much to illustrate. I think that the home, you should discuss with members of the household about attaining those before they're lost completely. And can we know about things being lost in this country? Mrs. Sophia Karen Choate, Miss Sophia Karen Choate, Senior Counsel, SC. Sophia Karen Choate, Senior Counsel, is a product of this region who has risen to become one of the Caribbean's legal luminaries. She was born in the community and attended the Rio Claro Presbyterian School and later St. Augustine Girls High School. She won an open national scholarship and studied law at King's College, University of London, one of Europe's finest universities. Upon her return to Trinidad and Tobago, she attended Sir Hugh Wooding Law School, where she earned her Legal Education Certificate. That's the LEC. Ms. Choate worked in the office of the Director of Public Prosecutions before venturing into her own law practice. She has lectured at Sir Hugh Wooding Law School. Ms. Choate served on the Council of the Law Association and on the organization's disciplinary committee. She is the current highly respected president of its association. In 2011, she was elevated to senior counsel. She has served as a judge on the Supreme Court. She has also sat on the Reform Commission and the Mercy Committee. In 2015, she was appointed an independent senator in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago, and she served for the entire parliamentary team, and that term, in fact. She heads her law firm called Alpha Chambers. She has also shared her time and talent with various non-governmental and charity organizations. For years, she served as an executive member of the Rape Crisis Center. Here to collect on behalf of Ms. Sophia Choate. When I spoke to her, she was actually in Barbados. I think she only just came back about a day or two ago. She couldn't be here, but here to collect it is Mr. Dimitri W. Choate, to collect on her behalf. Dimitri? Dimitri attended primary school with my last daughter. She didn't impact on you, did she? I see you don't remember. Thank you very much, Dimitri. Mr. Trevor Lynch, Trevor Ashford Lynch, has been given more than 40 years to pioneering entrepreneurship, especially in the natural gas and oil sector. Mr. Lynch is founder and chairman of TL Holdings Limited, TL Investments Limited, and Hydrotech Limited. He entered the sector as a laborer, and by hard work, commitment, and drive, has become one of its successful and inspirational figures with thriving businesses. Apart from resounding success in his business endeavors, Mr. Lynch has served on the government's Economic Advisory Board, along with chairman of CPEP Limited and other areas. In 1997, Mr. Lynch was a finalist for the Entrepreneur of the Year Award. He has a long-standing partnership with the Youth Training and Employment Partnership Program, YTEP, on oil and gas-relevant training programs to improve the life skills and employability of youth in the Mayaro Guaya district. Last February, Hydrotech and YTEP launched a 3-year program of providing training in welding, fabricating, and sandblasting. Mr. Lynch sponsors the Guaya United Football Club and aids a number of sporting and cultural organizations and individuals. His support extends to organizations outside of the Mayaro Guaya communities. Through his various initiatives, Mr. Lynch has proven to be an exceptional businessman, a visionary, and a community stalwart. He is a role model not only in entrepreneurship, but also in dedicated and tangible assistance to the communities that he has served for 4 decades and counting. Mr. Trevor Ashford Lynch.
Very pleasant evening to everybody. I am very humbled. All protocols, I'm very humbled to be among this group. It really made me believe that wise men come from the east. You have to hear that all the time. As I said, my time in Mayaro, I wasn't born and raised in Mayaro. I'm really from Point Fortin. But I spent 3/4 of my life in Mayaro. That probably meant I left home at 5. So I spent 3/4 of my life right here. And despite what the MC would have spoken about Hydrotech and Trevor Lynch and TL Investments and all this type of thing, I think my success is really, what I'm thankful for is probably God chose me to probably do and experience what I've experienced in life. And the my successes are really the people and the human resources that I could have harnessed to be able to provide services to the upstream energy sector. Today we're also in the hospitality sector. And the blessings are really creating an opportunity where people could have gotten a career, people could have gotten stable employment, people could have raised their children. The better things in my organization is that we have people who have worked nearly their whole life and retired in the organization. We still have people doing 25 years service, 20 years service, 15 years service. We have instances where we have both parent and children in the organization. So those are the things that I am really thankful for. And in the Mayaro, Guayagari, Rio Claro, and community, there is a lot of skills, there is a lot of dedication, right? My strategy in my organization was to run my organization like family. So it was a sort of unconventional kind of organizational structure. So the successes that we had and we continue to have, we just need to say thanks for that. And I can't do this without giving thanks to my wife, who had stood behind me all these years, because without probably her, it may have been a little more difficult. So it's a pleasure. And I would also like to thank everybody who from out of the area who have made this special effort to be here with us this evening. And before I leave, I would give a special thanks to Honorable Member of Parliament, who I've known from a child. And if I kept this function, he would have received a reward. So thank you again. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Lynch. Dr. William Danasar is one of the Caribbean's most renowned and respected medical professionals, especially in cancer care. Born in Navat village off Rio Claro, he attended Navat Presbyterian School and Naparima College. He taught science for 2 years at Rio Claro Government Secondary School. He attended medical school at the University of the West Indies, Mona, Jamaica. Ambitious and conscientious, Dr. Danasar later received a government scholarship to specialize in oncology at Princess Margaret Hospital in Ontario, Canada. Following that, he obtained a second scholarship to further his studies in oncology at Royal Marsden Hospital in England. In an extensive career, he has made an immeasurable contribution in medical care. The highly regarded consultant and oncologist has served for many years, variously as acting director and director of the National Radiotherapy Center. He has written about his specialty, including the book, The Rays of Hope. In 2019, he was awarded the Shakonia Medal Gold for medicine. He has received other honors. He continues to serve his country in cancer care and is widely acknowledged for his tremendous knowledge and skill. He has imparted his accumulated wisdom to young professionals. In the field of medicine, Dr. William Danasar is one of the Caribbean's most distinguished professionals. In his spare time, he's an avid collector of model ships, shot glasses, and fine liqueurs. Ladies and gentlemen, here to collect for Dr. William Danasar is Mr. Adilson Sahibidin. Thank you, Mr. Sahibdeen. Last, but certainly not least, Winston Chandarban Dukaran was born at a home at the corner of Grant Street and Kunapo's Southern Main Road, Rio Claro, which still stands. This is a symbol of the resilience and enduring contribution of Mr. Winston Dukaran to the Caribbean community in economics, academia, and public affairs. Young Winston received his early education at Rio Claro, then at Naparima College, and later at the University of Manitoba and London School of Economics and Political Science, obtaining a master's in economics degree at the latter institution. He lectured at the University of the West Indies and in 1981 took the plunge into electoral politics, being elected as a Member of Parliament for Chaguanas. He again won that constituency in 1986 and served as Minister of Planning and Mobilization. In succeeding years, he has performed as Governor of the Central Bank and as Minister of Finance and Minister of Foreign Affairs. He was a steady hand of national leadership during the tumultuous 1990 attempted insurrection. I was the only person on air, and I remember those negotiations well. Mr. Dukaran was the founding leader of the Congress of the People political party. He was a senior economist at the United Nations Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean. He has served in various senior capacities on several local, regional, and international economic organizations. He was a visiting scholar at Harvard University and at the United Nations University in Helsinki in Finland. He was also an adjunct professor at the University of Toronto. More recently, he was named a professor of practice at the University of the West Indies. He has published extensively. Mr. Dukaran is one of the Caribbean's most accomplished and respected citizens. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you ORTT, Mr. Winston Dukaran.
I don't think our singers, April and Tamu, could have said it better in their rendition earlier this afternoon. One moment in time. This is indeed one moment in time. It is the one moment in time that has happened because of the leadership and inspiration of the Member of Parliament for Mayaro, Mr. Rushton Paray. Thank you, Mr. Paray. And it is so wonderful to sit with your mom and your dear wife here tonight. My long association with Hanslier Joda continues to remind us of the skills of our people, as indeed this occasion is doing tonight by the several awardees who have been so honored from this region. I reflected for a moment as I listened to those who spoke before And I said, what really is the product of this legacy, in this legacy award? For the first time being done, not only here in Mayaro, but I believe perhaps in Trinidad and Tobago. The product of my legacy will come from teachers like Sukhdev Maharaj and Stephen Lala of the Rio Claro Presbyterian School, as they have given birth to many of us in the field of education. I take this opportunity to pay tribute to them and to say to their families a great thank you for what they have done for the young people in Trinidad and Tobago and in Rio Claro at the time. But that product makes me reflect on the moment of Rio Claro itself. Growing up in this little village that was called Clearwater. Dr. Samaru will tell you more about that. What made us all walk into the wider world? Not only here in Trinidad and Tobago and beyond, with a sense of confidence in ourselves. As Dr. Dan said, that confidence was reflected in the values he spoke about. But it was a confidence that came out of a peculiar and unique quality of the place called Rio Claro, and now, of course, Mayaro. I consider that confidence have come for what I will call a mosaic of harmony. Living in Rio Claro was living in a harmonious society. Living in Rio Claro and growing up in Rio Claro, we felt a sense of harmony among our peoples. It is only when I left Rio Claro I realized that there was not the same amount of harmony in the rest of our country. But I felt that mosaic of harmony built in among us that sense of confidence. So today I pay tribute to that culture of Rio Claro. And I use Rio Claro in a general constituency sense. For it is that culture that gives birth to so many excellence that have been displayed here today, and some that have been displayed elsewhere. So at home, that mosaic of harmony, a longing and an urging, a desire and a hope has always been at the center of my heart. It all came from Rio Claro. And I thank you for giving me this opportunity to say that here today, MP Rushton Paray. That desire started from Rio Claro. But what was the moment in my life in which I felt the greatest sense of legacy? All this I reflected upon here today. In one's public life, or even one's private life, there are so many events that happen that you reflect on. But the one that I reflect on most, which I believe also came from that level of harmonious living was really a sense of humor. This sense of humor helped me gain a confidence in solving or in participating in the solution of one of this country's darkest problems. It tells you that small things sometimes can have big consequences. It was in the 1990 period, in the assault on our parliament, of which Chancellor Jura knows a lot. When I was, like so many others, a hostage in the parliament, and with a gun pointed on my head, and chaos in the parliament, with the feeling that perhaps we will all die. I raised my hand from the ground on which we were tied. And the perpetrators came to me and said, "What do you want?" And I said, "I want to talk." And then he asked me, "Who are you?" I said, "I am Winston Dukaran." He said, "I know that. I don't want to know your name. What position do you hold?" And still with a gun pointed on my head, I said, "I am the Minister of Planning," which is the position I held then. And he replied, "I'm sure you did not plan for this one." As it evoked here today, it evoked in my sense a feeling that that person is someone I can talk to, and opened the door to many other conversations that took place during that night and thereafter. That sense of humor, as it is now seen, was a moment of opening to resolve our country's greatest political challenge of the times. I say that today because this is a moment of my legacy that all came from my early childhood days. So tonight, as I pay tribute to all my colleagues who have joined us here today, I do so with a deep feeling that you have started a new conversation. Not one that we have not had before. You have decided to move from what we talk about in our country to what we ought to talk about. You have decided in this particular event to move from moments of despair into moments of hope. Mr. Paray, I hope that your inspiration and leadership will find itself in so many different places in our country. At first I thought this was a day for nostalgia, but then I realized this was not a day for nostalgia. I remember a very famous author who had written hundreds of books. On his 80th birthday, he was being honored in a ceremony to reflect his own contribution in the world in which he performed. After writing 20 plus books and being so honored for his legacy, he was asked a question by one of the journalists like Ken Ali, who always asked difficult questions, as far as I could remember. The question he was asked was, "Sir, which one of your book is your best book?" At 80 years old, having written 20 plus books, and his reply was, "The next book." So it's not a day of nostalgia. It's a day of inspiration. And as you told the awardees, it is to inspire the next generation of people from Rio Claro and rural Trinidad and Tobago. I thank you for giving us this opportunity. I share the joy of today. I feel the sense of satisfaction. And I know that this award will mean a lot to me, if only because it is coming from you, the people of Rio Claro and Mayaro. For all that, I say I thank you very much. I'm honored and privileged to receive this, and I hope that this will not be my last book, as I too look forward to my next book in life. Thank you for this opportunity.
A mosaic of harmony. Bishop Tutu called us a rainbow people. Today I heard something very special. A mosaic of harmony. Please give Mr. Winston Dukuran and all our awardees congratulations to each and every one of you. And indeed, thank you very much, MP, for inviting me to this. This is also a great moment in time for me. Now to give a vote of thanks is Mr. Videsh Maharaj. Let me invite him to the podium. Videsh.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Chairman of the Mayaro Rio Claro Regional Corporation, Mr. Raymond Cozier, members of Parliament, including our own Member of Parliament, Mr. Rushton Paray. Let's pause and recognize. Let's all stand for Mr. Rushton Paray tonight for this lovely gesture. We'll shake a foot a little bit. Thank you. My job is simple, but very meaningful. Firstly, I'd like to thank the Almighty God for bringing us here safely this afternoon and hoping that you will take us back safely to our respected homes. I would like to thank April and Ms. Aguilera for that wonderful renditions. I would also like to thank Neil Ramdat and his staff for what I would say was a mammoth exercise to achieve this goal in such short time. Let's give it to Mr. Neil and his staff. Hansley Ajoda did what you call an awesome job. Hansley, we thank you most kindly for coming to Mayaro and treating us the way that you have treated us. Thank you so much, Hansley, for your gesture and your kind words. Chairman of the Mayaro Rio Claro Regional Corporation, thank you so much for your greetings. It's always a pleasure. And as you rightfully say, and I join with you, the Miami of Mayaro. The saxophonist, she did a wonderful job, and I'm sure that she'll be coming back later on to perform. So we want to thank her also for what she has been doing for us. Thank you so much. Professor Dilip Dan. You were very inspirational. It's probably it is my first time, and I'm sure many people here, first time really hearing that side of you, because everybody knows of you and we know of your work that you have been doing, and immensely we are grateful for you taking up the position to come to be our featured speaker. I feel very happy to see you here this afternoon. I was very moved, and I'm sure everybody was very moved by your speech. It came from the heart, and I feel so happy to know that you were once my neighbor 5 houses away from where I live. So I feel proud to be in your company this afternoon also. Thank you so much, Professor Dan. I want to thank all the awardees for coming out here this afternoon. I want to thank Professor Samaru. Professor Samaru, I want to let you know that I heard you, and I'm speaking on behalf of the chairman of the corporation, because I'm sure if he had an opportunity to speak, he would have assured you that we will find that document that you spoke about, and we will find it and get it to the relevant authority once the regional corporation have access to it. And I'm speaking on behalf of the chairman of the corporation. So thank you so much, Professor Brinsley Samaru. Ken Ali, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the opportunity to come and receiving this award on behalf of the Member of Parliament. Ms. Sophia Choate, her relative, thank you so much on behalf of Ms. Choate. Mr. Lynch, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your wealth and your experience within this region. On behalf of Dr. Danisa, we thank you so much, my friend, for coming up. And I want to pay special recognition also to all the business community and the sponsors of this event. These sponsors would have been a very short notice, and they came up to the task. But somebody in the audience here tonight who has been a part of a sponsorship or a group also, I want to really congratulate her and thank her on behalf of the Mayaro constituency, the Member of Parliament, the members of the Mayaro Rio Claro Regional Corporation, and the community at large. I want to thank you, Ms. Sunita Prasad, on behalf of the SNS Prasad Group. Thank you for your overwhelming contribution, as usual. I left out 2 names in the awardees, and I want to pay special tribute to Matthew Pierre also, and I want to thank you for taking the opportunity to share your time with us. Matthew, in his speech, he mentored hundreds of young people. At my age, when I went to the Mayaro Claro Regional Corporation as a councillor at 23, Matthew and I went in together in 1996. I think it was April 24th, Matthew, if I recall. Matthew politically would have been on another side, and I politically would have been a young on the other side. Matthew turned out to be my hero in the Mayaro Claro Regional Corporation and my mentor. Matthew, thank you for mentoring me over the years, and still a friend. The other awardee that I want to pay some special recognition to this afternoon on behalf of the Member of Parliament and everybody here also is Mr. Austin Jack Warner. Mr. Jack Warner, thank you so much for coming up to Mayaro Rio Claro. It's always a pleasure, and thank you for all the contribution that you have done for this country. And last but not least, I want to thank Mr. Winston Dokaran. You have really been a mentor to many, many people when it comes to the type of politics that people really want in this country. You are exemplar in that field. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to take this opportunity to thank our own Member of Parliament, but I want to thank his family. I want to thank Mrs. Paray, his mom, Mrs. Paray, his wife, Miss Paray, his daughter, and the rest of his family. But more so, and MP, if I may, I would like to call you by your first name, because everybody do. Rushton, you have really shown politicians what a patriotic person should be like. You have shown people where politics might be the avenue to be in a position to make a change, but you didn't make an exchange. You are making a change, Mr. Member of Parliament. And I want to personally thank you on behalf of my wife and myself and everybody from the constituency of Mayaro for your vision, for your dreams to make this constituency a better place, to make this country a better place. I know that you said that you're here until 2025, but the way how things are going, you are here for a very, very long time. You have made your landmark into the Mayaro constituency, and the people of Mayaro will support you in all your endeavors and venture. If I may say, I want to thank the rest of organizers, the media, all the different people who have made this function tonight a success, the caterers, the entertainers, and everybody else. Mr. Rushton Paray, we thank you for bringing a pride and joy to the Mayaro, where we had a black tie event. Thank you. God bless our nation. God bless our country. God bless our Member of Parliament and the people of Mayaro. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alderman Videsh Maharaj. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here, and I think it's time to eat. MP, we came out early. We did. And now, first of all, I'd like to ask members of the tables with the awardees to go to the food section. That's to the back? Yeah. So we'll take the front tables first, and it's just 12 tables, so we'll just go to the second afterwards as you see the party leaving, and then we go to the last, all right? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. And you know, we recently lost Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth, the longest serving monarch in British history. And it was said by many journalists, international journalists, that she represented duty, responsibility, decency, and civility. And the very people here tonight epitomize that, without a doubt. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your presence. I'm Hansel Joda. Good night. And enjoy your meal.
Give praise, children. Give praise. Give praise, children. Yeah. Give praise. Give praise, children. Yeah. Give praise. Give praise, children. Our Father who has given us His arms that we can all feel like we are part of this earthly heaven. Forgive us this day our daily weakness as we
Yeah, thank you. Sorry to hit your mic. Before the awardees go off to eat, we'd like a group picture for the media, if that's possible. A group picture for the media. So all awardees, if you could gather in front. I think the best place is actually on top of here, on the stage. Yeah. So all awardees, if you could come back onto the stage, please. No, the representatives as well. No, those who represented. Come on. Yeah, we want everybody who is here.